And my first thought after crossing that finish line was, I fucking did that. Everything paid off. Edinburgh Half Marathon 2026, over 12,000 people at the start line, and I was one of them. With 12 weeks of training under my belt and hundreds of kilometers racked up, I was ready to take on the challenge I'd set myself at the start of the year, a sub 150 finish. This would be a 15-minute PB attempt from my last half 2 years ago, and I felt ready, but that was the hardest race I have ever done, and it definitely didn't go as I expected. If you're new here, I'm Ellen, and for the last 4 years, I've been coaching women to achieve incredible things, from photo shoots to weddings, from 5Ks to marathons, from high roxes to triathlons, and everything in between. And I also like to lead from the front by setting myself some ballsy goals, like a sub 150 15-minute PB half marathon attempt, for example, which is exactly what I did at the Edinburgh Half Marathon last weekend. But let's rewind back to the day before, where the focus was carb loading and, as Troy Bolton would say, getting my head in the fucking game. He probably wouldn't have sworn. Let's go. We've just got back from a shakeout run, 5K easy pace shakeout run, which was good. Legs are feeling good. Generally just in a good headspace going into tomorrow. I had obviously carb loading focus today, so I had a crumpet before we set off, had a coffee and pastry after the run, and now we've just got ready and we're going to head down to the neighbourhood market, which is in kind of Stockbridge, Inverleith Park area, and it's open all through the summer, and it's like food vendors, drinks and music, stuff like that. So we're going to go and head down there and find some more carbs to continue my carb loading day and just enjoy the nice weather and the sunshine. It's a heat wave in London. We've not quite got the heat wave up here, which I'm not mad about. I don't really fancy running in 30-degree heat. So I'm actually quite comfortable with the sort of mid-low 20s over this weekend, and have a nice chilled afternoon for coming back, doing some work, settling in for the night, more carb, and getting ready for tomorrow. Good, but it literally didn't even hit the sides. Need some chips. Tell me you're carb loading without telling me you're carb loading. T-minus, I don't know how many hours. I don't want to do the math. I've just finished a little bit of Saturday laptop time. We got back from the neighbourhood market a couple of hours ago. It was such a vibe. Getting deep into the carb loading. So far we've had a crumpet before the run, pastry after the run, had a bao bun, and probably about 2/3 of that plate of fries that I showed you. Josh had the other third. Got back home, had that mango, got some rice cakes to eat, and then I've got a big ass bowl of pasta for dinner. And I'll do a quick tally up of carbs later and just check that I've had enough, and if not, I'll have some granola for a post-dinner dessert. I start quite early tomorrow morning. I start the race at 8 a.m. So I'm going to have time to have breakfast in the morning, and I will be having breakfast, obviously. But yeah, I want to make sure that I've got some good energy stored for tomorrow today. I'm feeling really good. Genuinely, at this point, I do only have excitement, but that is because I have prepped for this race. My goal going into my half marathon training block was I want to get to the day before the race knowing that I could not have done any more to get me to my goal. And that is exactly how I am feeling today. I know that I showed up for 95% of my runs, of my programmed runs, and the 5% that didn't happen was just circumstantial and just wasn't possible, rather than me sacking it off. I know that I have dedicated myself to those runs. I've committed to the time, to the pacing strategies, gone deep into pain caves multiple times in my speed runs. I've hit some mental walls in my long runs. Like, I've gone through it all. because I wanted to get to this point and say I could not have done more. And that's something I really value in my goals. My approach to setting goals is I don't want to feel like I've fluked this run. I don't want to hit a PB knowing it was just a fluke and I just pulled it out my ass on the day, because that's not actually going to feel that good. I want a PB knowing that that PB is as a result of all of the work I've done up to that point, and that I have myself to thank for that PB. That's how I want to feel. The more work you put into a process, the more power you take away from your nerves. And I'm just excited to get on the course and get going and get my medal. It's half marathon day. It's also 5:30, and Josh and Kath are still asleep, so I need to be very quiet. Let's get ready to go and run a sub 150 half marathon. Factor 50 is going to be very necessary for today. I always say to clients on race days, always do a really good warm-up before you leave to go to the race, because by the time you get to the start of the start line of the race, you might be too nervous, you might be running late, you might not have enough space. So psychologically it's better to just get a really good workout, good warm-up done before you leave, so that you don't have to worry too much about doing that when you get there.
Just a little sharp side.
It'll be fine.
Okay, yeah. It'll be fine. If. So you start at 8.
Here we go. Okay. Well, we're not quite at the start line yet, heading there. I think in the general right direction. I'm following other runners, so I'm assuming we're heading in the right direction. And got my personal bag drop in the form of Kath, so I don't have to deal with the queues, which is lovely. Just had a nervous wee in Starbucks. Thank you, Starbucks. And ready to go do some running. Yeah, ready to go do some running. Gonna be very, very fast. Heading to the start line.
Come on, Ellen! Last push out!
Oh my god, I did it! So happy. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Oh. Thank you so much.
Well done.
Oh, it's started!
Is it? Oh, it is! Oh, that's fun.
Good.
I fucking did that. I actually did it. Everything paid off. Because that was easily the hardest thing I have ever put my body and my mind through. So the first 6 to 8 kilometers had some really decent downhill chunks. So I made the most of that to give myself some wiggle room for later in the race. And I am so fucking glad that I did. Because from around the 10-kilometer mark, the sun came out to play. No shade, no cloud cover, just heat pouring down on us for the rest of the race. So in my training, I hadn't been using intra-workout fluids or hydration or water of any sort because the gels I was using, SAP Good Energy, already had sodium in them. So it didn't really feel essential to have extra fluids on my person during my race prep, which is why I didn't take any out on the day. But I don't think I've ever relied on water stations so heavily in my life as I did on Sunday. Because mentally, from about 13 kilometers onwards, I was deep in the pain cave, and those water stations were my lifelines, physically and mentally. So fuel-wise, I'd planned to have one gel every 5 kilometers. The first 2 gels went down absolutely fine, but by the time I hit 15K, it was a choice between pushing through without that 3rd gel or having it and seeing it come straight back up again about 30 seconds later. So I skipped the last one and basically ran on hopes and prayers for the last 6 kilometers. I think I skipped the first 2 water stations, but for the final 2 or 3, I utilized the swill and spit tactic, lubricating and hydrating the mouth without swallowing a boatload of water that was just going to end up making me feel really heavy and sick. My goal pacing wise was pretty simple. Make the most of the downhill by sticking within that 4:45 to 4:55 range so that I could give myself some wiggle room later in the race. And then as soon as I started to struggle, keep as close to that 5-minute mark as possible. But I did have to ease the pace pretty substantially for the final few kilometers to basically avoid completely blowing up because the heat was absolutely relentless at that point and people were dropping like flies down the course. Every 100, 150 meters or so, there was another person who'd fainted or passed out and was receiving medical attention. So it was either scale it back a little bit or join the ranks, which is why I was so glad I did take those first 5, 6, 7 kilometers pretty pacey because that allowed me to ease up at the end while still being able to stay within my goal time. But yeah, mentally from about 13K onwards, I was so deep in the pain cave, almost to a point of disassociating, to be honest. I don't remember a whole lot of that middle chunk, but even with how I was feeling, like tired, nauseous, overheated, at no point did I consider walking or calling it off. The only thought I had in my head was to make the most of whatever I had left in the tank and to give this race my absolute all. For the last stretch, I literally just kept repeating, you can do hard things, you can do hard things in my head over and over and over again. It's exactly the mantra I give to clients whenever they're entering into races. I love to get them to stick it on the back of their hand, write it on the back of their hand, just as I did, to remind themselves in those moments of tough that they are capable of incredible things and they are worthy of incredible things and they just have to push through and prove themselves capable in that moment. So it was a case of you can do hard things for those last few kilometers until I turned that final corner and caught sight of the finish line. And then I took my headphones out, soaked in the crowd, and actually just let myself take in what had just happened. And yeah, crossed the finish line, 1:47 half marathon in the bag. And my first thought after crossing that finish line was, I fucking did that. I actually did it. Everything paid off. And I am so proud of myself, not just of race day. Like race day was tough, race day was so challenging, but I'm more proud of the entire training block that led to it. The approach I take to the goals I set myself is always the same, regardless of the actual goal itself. If you're gonna set a goal, make sure it matters, know your why behind the goal, and make sure that on the day you can honestly say you couldn't have done more to prepare for that moment. That's it. If I get to the start line and I can tick those boxes, I've already completed the goal. So that is my Edinburgh Half Marathon race day debrief. Bit of a roller coaster. Not the day I was anticipating. I live in Scotland, right? For my entire 12-week half marathon training block, I don't think I had a run that was anything above 13, maybe 14 degrees at a push. There is no way I could have mentally or physically prepared myself for a 23-degree race day in Scotland in May. So yeah, did it go as expected? Absolutely not. Did I expect to enjoy myself more than I did? Yes. But am I so ridiculously proud of what I achieved? No question. And by the way, there is nothing wrong with celebrating your achievements, shouting about them, especially when it's a goal that you've put so much time and effort into. I can shine the spotlight on it for as long as you bloody want. And look, if you're getting into running yourself and you want some help building towards your own goals, I'm gonna leave the link in the top line of my description box to our free 8-week running guide, which is going to guarantee a 5K PB and a 10K PB for you in less than 8 weeks. So go and grab it if you want to learn from the gal who got herself a sub 150 half marathon, which by the way included a 10K PB of 48.50. Just saying. I kind of know what I'm talking about. So don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and I'll see you in the next one.